Hello. I'm going to go ahead and dive in and do this no matter what. This is, and these are cars that are in the history of our family, many of which I don't have the exact provenance, but I'm going to show them here. And they're not in order, but I hope you enjoy jumping around with me. Of course, I want to test things. I'm going to get out of this now. So that means turning my camera off. I'm going to keep the cursor there. And here we go. This is our downtown. I couldn't resist having this. This is where I had an office for 35 years, from 1990 to 2025, and for about 10 years up above what was then G.C. Murphy's. This was G.C. Murphy's. Thompson's, our old friends, and Main Street Antiques, and Miller's Pharmacy with the fantastic woodwork. This is my grandfather, only 1 horsepower, and this is Grandpa Michael Earl O'Grady, probably in Neffs, Ohio, a little bit closer. This is from Neffs. There's a wonderful set of photographs from my great uncle James McKean Kidd, provided to me, I believe, by Christina Dabini or one of my other dear second cousins. I think this is my Aunt Elsie, and I do not know what that is behind her, probably a Ford Model T. I'd love to know what that is. I'd love to know what that is. That came off of one of the Facebook sites, I believe. I don't think it's from the Hunter Family album. I believe that this is my beloved mother, although I notice she looks like my sister Nancy Jane in that picture. Here is Nancy's grandfather. I believe that's Grandpa Cedarholm. No, it's a little confusing. I know that's Nancy's grandparents, but that's Uncle Warren Cedarholm. Not sure. And this one comes, I believe, from that Neffs, Ohio series, and I believe one of those gentlemen is an O'Grady. Again, love these photographs. I'm sure there's a story on this one. That's my dad, John B. Hunter, John Burton Hunter II. And I wish he were here. I could ask him about it. That is Nancy's grandpa, Goodfellow. And I believe this is her dad, Robert Eugene Goodfellow, which means this is Uncle Bill and this is Uncle Don. This is my uncle, James O'Grady, and there's probably a Michael in there. Uncle Jim went to West Virginia Wesleyan. He was a KA. I've got a photograph somewhere of that. Here is the insert from over here. And Kate always drove because Uncle Jim had a severe condition of rheumatoid arthritis that did not keep him from working over 30 years and having few, if any, absences from wheeling stamping. I don't know that boy's name, but I lived on South Park Street. There's another picture with me and Jack Canfield, the author, who I've not been able to reconnect with. Sorry about that cough. I believe this has to be West Park Street because of the ages of my sisters. I am here, and since it's down in Edgewood, I couldn't have been 10 years old. This is Sister Pat and Sister Christine. I knew the name of these folks. This is where we lived. People walked out of here and walked down here and spoke to me a couple months ago when Nancy and I took a drive to Wheeling, and I got to tell the people who occupy the home now that I had been there in 1950. These folks lived in this house. I think their name was Jack. I think this gentleman's name is Corby Jack, and that's his wife, and that's the beloved Bose, who died when she was 13. And it was a great, great shock to me since she'd been in my life my whole life. Uncle Bill, William Craig Hunter, and Barbara McGar Hunter, and their car, and I'm sure my cousins know where that is. And speaking of that car, there is cousin Craig, beautiful cousin Cindy, in front of the same car. This is Nancy's mom, Marjorie Cedarholm, and this is her mother, Florence Cedarholm. Now to jump around a little bit, I got this off of the internet. This is a building I owned from 1990 to 2022 or 3. All of these windows except these back here were blocked off and made into a very homely looking 1970s facade. It was the HP store, and there have been parades there forever. And I'm so sorry about the coffee. Another one, and I'll bet I could cough. Let's try it out. So unless you just now heard a loud cough, I figured out a way to control that. I wish I had some water here. The interesting juxtaposition and connection here is I took this picture, and these are two of my college roommates. This is Jan Laux's loving wife, and I've been trying to remember her, and I just couldn't do it. But somewhere over here, Jenny Sue Rice was visiting, and I believe she's in the picture. This is now Fishhawk Acres, and this is the HP store. This is the entry to my office, and these windows have been carefully bricked up and are no longer visible. This is my darling sister, Pat. She ran for class president in a very tough race, and she thinks that's Lisa Beneke's VW Beetle. For some reason, my mom and my Uncle Bill were in that, what looks like maybe a Model T at some point, but of course not the same eras. Clearly they were at a car show. This is not one of our cars. It's a Hillman, and I think it's a Husky. We had a Hillman Husky, a station wagon, which actually drifted back into our garage door when my mom's foot slipped off the clutch. I'm not sure whether that's our car or one I just got from a file somewhere, but it's a Plymouth Valiant, one of the new compact cars that came along about that time, including the Corvair. This is very close to what we had. Ours was a Chrysler. I think it was a Newport, and it got rear-ended as we were going into Lindsley to start class. This is not our car, but I have a picture of this 1961 Pontiac Bonneville, which I was honored to use in a date with Rhonda Randolph, the daughter of our church choir director, and Rhonda was the first runner-up to Miss California, and a wonderful, nice girl. This is a Chrysler 300. My first visit to Connecticut to see Nancy after our freshman year, I drove something like this. We had a Corvair Monza. This is not it, but it had swing axles, was very dangerous when driven hard because there was no such thing as radial tires back then. Nancy's dad got her in 1965 Mustang. It's not high powered. I think it had an iron 6-cylinder engine, but that was her car for a while. And then after my tragic wreck, well, no, this blue one would be similar to the one my mother had when we were teenagers. And the red one is very similar to the one Nancy let me borrow after I managed to total my MGB. This is our friend. These are our friends, Don and Jan Rose. I don't know where it is. It might be right there behind Nancy, but they had their kitty cat, and we had our brand new baby, John Burton Hunter the fourth. These are clips from a video that we got digitized from Legacy Box. Nancy coming out of the motel on their trip to return for Nancy's sophomore year, and putting her suitcase in the car. And in the background, greeting her at the other end on Wesleyan's campus was yours truly. This is our fraternity, exact time unknown. And I think this is Bob Albert. I think this is Mark Palmer. And I think that's Hal Slaughter. But that is our fraternity house. And when Nancy's parents drove in, I was up above here on the third level, sitting on a chair, leaning back against the window. This is John West, Austin Healey 3000, and our fraternity. Why I've carved it up like that, I don't know, but this is a little better, little clearer view of our class at that time. Somewhere in here, Ralph Berry is. I see Don Rose right there, and there's John, and there's Ray Steelman, and there's Ed Tootie, Ed Sinclair, and I think that's Bob Albert right there. So that's all I'm going to do right now. I see others, but I'll just get myself in trouble if I try. Whoops, I got a duplicate. That was not supposed to happen. John West, Healey 3000, and our sweetheart, lovely lady. Again, these aren't supposed to be duplicated. This was the, quote, Phi Sig Annex owned by the Hinkles. This whole second floor was where Ray Steelman and I, we shared that as roommates. There's Nancy and her sophomore roommate, Nancy with her Mustang, and that's Janie Powers, Mrs. Gary Frieders. I wish I realized how many duplicates I still had. This is my father visiting us at the trailer park in the Mile Ground, and he's got his movie camera, and we've got some movies from that day. What's this? I'll think about it. There I am in front of the trailer, which we bought brand new for $3,500 and lived in during my 3 years in law school prior to heading to Griffiths Air Force Base, the JAG Corps, the Air Force JAG Corps. We had a BMW 2002. This is not it, but it is the same color, and it had been wrecked, and we weren't told it had been wrecked, and they replaced the radiator with a too small version, and it constantly and chronically overheated. But it was a neat car. I remember driving around with my sister Pat in the back seat. This was called an Opel Manta. That is exactly the model we had, although that's not a picture that I took. And you can see the flat back hood. That had an interesting development in that the fuel line ran too close to the hot engine, would boil the gasoline and lock up the carburetor. This is Summit Point Raceway. You can see the farm in the background. my pit crew, John West, and I'm guessing there are 3 stripes right behind John that showed that I was a novice at that point. This is not the place for me to talk about my racing career of 2 years. This is our third WRX, Subaru WRX Fastback. Wonderful cars, wonderful performance, rally type cars. This was my second year, 1979, my Ford Fiesta, also Class C, also sponsored by B&R Ford. This was a victory at Watkins Glen in New York, and our son John. I was pretty hepped up, had a lot of adrenaline, and they had to keep flagging me and telling me to slow down as I went around with John in the front seat. It was rather foolish, but I was young and foolish, even though I was just past 30 years of age at that time. This is a photo taken by Dick Billick. Unfortunately, that ended my career when I tried to extend my tires one race weekend too long and went into the tire wall. I took each of these photos. I think this is Gene Talbert, also part of the B&R racing team. This is a Formula Ford I took a picture of, I think, at Mid-Ohio. The Brumos Porsche was always at these IMSA races. And, of course, there's Clay Regazzoni when we went to the Formula One, the Grand Prix, U.S. Grand Prix at Watkins Glen. And Kathy Page and Chuck were there, and another pair of friends. Isn't that embarrassing not to remember their names? But we had a great time that weekend, and we were directed into the bog, and they were going to burn our RV, and I put the pedal down and actually would have hit one of the crazed hippies if they had not jumped out of the way. It was an exciting event. That's Bob Sharp of the Bob Sharp Racing Team, which sponsored Paul Newman in his Datsun 510 and later his Datsun 300, I believe. We had a 1985 Ford Mustang GT with the Boss 302 engine. It was so light in the back that you couldn't get it going on the ice on a flat surface without very careful feathering of the throttle. For a while, I bought from Jim Jones of Jim's Exxon this sedan, this Mercedes sedan. I didn't have it too long, but we had 2 of these, the second of which we had over 200,000 miles. We gave it to Laura, and unfortunately it let her down, but it's a Pontiac Bonneville SSEI. That's archive picture, not an actual picture of our car. There is John with my number 40 Pinto, and this is Nancy and John at Lime Rock. I'm not sure, and I can't tell, but I believe Nancy's 8 months pregnant at that point. This is our friend. These are our friends Ray and Pam Starling. Major General Ray Starling retired of the Air Force Reserve, and Toots, who they were kind enough to let us take over when they got assigned to Guam and could not take her with them. This is Diane Billick, our friend. Dick's not in the picture. That's their American Motors vehicle and our Chevy Vega GT. And that's the same tent that we had there. And it's not in the picture, but it's there too. It served us well. That was an autocross at Griffiths Air Force Base. This is Margie and her darling baby Scott, and Margie Toth, and was then Margie Hall. She's Margie Kraft, and there's Nancy and Chris and John B. Hunter IV. That's Nancy in the Opel Manta. And that is Rockingham, where I took my last school. There were mandatory 2 schools, and we drove all night, and I attended the school. And these are high-banked ovals, and there's a lot of stories about that. But at least I wasn't the one who slid up and hit the wall, as the gal who had another Pinto did right in front of me. This is Lime Rock Park, I believe, and that is Scotty Hall later on in his life. There is the B&R Ford, and I see a motorcycle behind me, so I'm not quite sure where that is, but it must be Summit Point, because there's that duplicate of that picture. Years later, that Justin, who wasn't even in the picture yet, and my eye doctor, Burton Abel, went with me to Summit Point, and I posed them in front of this Ford Mustang GT350. I went back about 20 years ago to the Skip Barber Racing School and had a great time. Perhaps I should have done a little more fitness dieting before getting in this time, but there was a young lady, a doctor, who had bought her dad a gift for his 60th birthday, and we had a lot of fun with the different people I met there. That's the Opel Manta. That is our picture of it, and it looks like we were still at the mobile home. Nancy's Toyota Venza. The flaw in the Venza is the all-wheel drive didn't work until you began to slide. And of course, we needed it so we wouldn't slide, so eventually we had to replace it. This is our first Subaru WRX. It was a station wagon, and I don't know why there are 2. I don't know where that picture was taken. I do know this is Nancy's Venza on the top of Wheeling Hill at the windmill up on the top. It's still there. This is the I believe it's 1960 MGB. I was in the back seat. Ray and John West and I went to Cumberland Raceway, and if they had not allowed me to tag along on that trip, this would have never happened. This is me right here as this gentleman spun around. This guy missed it. Mike Delaney, my friend, creamed me on the side. We had lapped this fella in 20 laps, 20 laps. We had traveled 2 miles farther than he had. He had no business being on the track. He saw us in the rearview mirror. This fella arranged to have his muffler come loose, so he was losing. I was ahead in the championship. Everything was fine, and all of a sudden, he began to make a very loud sound. He gained 2 seconds or a second and a half, was eventually able to pass me, and when I was in second place at this point as he drives off into the sunset. So there's a lot going on in that picture. This is Nancy and me at something called the Budweiser 500 in Gent, West Virginia, with John West and his wife at that time, and we had a good visit in our BMW. Years later, as we became very avid race watchers and eventually a racer, we put that window in our Dodge van. We built that platform on the top to watch races, and these boys grew up with auto racing in their blood. This is a very young, beautiful Nancy in front of our very young and beautiful Fiat 850, which we discovered wasn't quite as fast as her VW Beetle. Unfortunately, as you can see, this sloppy, slidey snow, I slid from out of sight down there, as slow and agonizing as you could ever believe, right into this tree, which is good because Glady Fork is down here on the left. This is that same car parked right at the end of our driveway with our neighbor's beautiful property in the back. This is my the fella that leased me the Ford Pinto, David Rush, who has passed away. talking to his friend Gene Talbert. I really don't remember who that gentleman was. This is Nancy and young John and our BMW, no doubt at Lime Rock. There's this picture using a motor drive. He spun, there I was. We hit, there he was. Here comes Mike. I'm vulnerable, crunch. I was on the front page of the Washington, D.C. region's Mid-Atlantic Road Racing Series magazine. Here is Nancy, and I wish I could tell you what that is. That looks like a Ferrari to me. And there's Nancy and her brother David at Lime Rock. I built this little BRE Datsun because Paul Newman raced it at, and we've got so many stories that connect us with Paul Newman and racing because we were at the same track on several occasions. So these are three of the cars I made and kept in my office at Griffiths Air Force Base. This is a family reunion on the Hunter side of the family. There's my Uncle Bill. I can't tell you who these folks are. I should be able to. But there's lovely Sister Patricia, and there's Aunt Bobby, my dad, and my Aunt Clary, and my darling, wonderful Grandma Lola, Sarah, maiden name Filson, Hunter, and my BMW. This is Lime Rock Park, and that's a BMW 2002. This is Mid-Ohio, and you can see these IMSA cars were mighty fast and a lot of fun. Linda Cornett was I don't know if she was an editor, but you can see her name down there at the bottom, staff writer for the Record Delta. This was the year after Justin was born. Justin was born while I was at a racetrack, and his future soccer coach, whose name I won't mention here, took Nancy to the hospital, and his wife Nancy reminded him it was her third child, and he better get going, which he did. And she wrote this front page article, and my father was at this race, and foolishly he thought that maybe there was something going on between me and Miss Cornett, who just happened to be interested that we had a local boy racing. We still have the original of that paper. Sometimes we would stop for little rest breaks, and I know this is Middle Mountain between Seneca Rocks and Buchanan, and that is Christopher, but all of our little children had an opportunity to stop at this rest stop. This is Lime Rock. I've got many pictures here, and I'm not that had to be one of the Sports Car Club of America races. I don't, or it might be my Skip Barber Racing School. I'm not sure. This is our home now. This was the Ford Focus RS that we had when, at the same time, Nancy had her Subaru Ascent, and we had completely emptied our garage, and I just like that picture. That's where we are today, in that home. I believe this is the front of the annex on East Main Street, Phi Sigma Epsilon. Another duplicate. I don't know how that happens. These are two MGCs, I think they are, mating. And there is a Lime Rock, and we liked to sit on that side because we could see almost half the track, including something called the chute. They came down this way, all the way down to the other end. With two Skip Barber Racing Schools, 2 lapping days, and a couple races up there, I got to know that track as well as any track I ever raced on. This is my car, and I think this is Gene Talbert's lovely daughter, whose name, if I ever knew it, is long gone. And again, those duplicates kept Oh, by the way, that's Sam Posey. He wrote a book about his childhood in Kent, something Express. I took that picture. He actually became overwhelmed by the heat and got out right there. There's Nancy posing on our Fiat 850 Spider. We got pulled over with little John behind us in a little child carrier, completely contrary to all common sense and safety, but it seemed like a good idea at the time. This is called The Shoot. I'm right here. I don't know who took that picture. Probably the professional that would sell these pictures later. You can see there a couple Fiats, or they might have been Volkswagen Rabbits. This was a faster class, but that is where our later wreck took place. These are Datsuns. That might well be Paul Newman. I'm not sure. I got to know the guy who took over that seat because he was my teacher, Bruce. Maybe I'll think of it by the end, but I reconnected with him on LinkedIn and we had some really nice chats. He's the one who sent me back out up in New Hampshire, and I spun out and backed into the guardrail, and Skip Barber actually waived the deductible because he said he shouldn't have had a class at such a dangerous track. Dangerous in the sense that it had guardrails all around and someone was bound to have a wreck like that. He's a true gentleman and still with us. This was the first day that we announced the car and it got into the record delta, and here I am at the summit point. And I am speechless about the number of duplications. That's our Mustang GT in front of our Hickory Lane home that Nancy found in Better Homes and Gardens magazine, and we reversed the design, and it was built by the Johns brothers. All right. This nice lady, Chrissy, sold Nancy her Ford Ascent, and you can see they're exactly the same height, but Chrissy cheated just a little bit. My father's insurance company recovered a stolen Buick Skylark. The only difference from this picture is this hood was blacked out, and it's the car I got to have from sophomore through senior years at Wesleyan. Lots of stories involve that car. This is Ray Sampson's Ford Falcon in front of the fraternity house on homecoming weekend. Oh, this is again Ray's Ford Falcon. That's John in front of Bill and Babs Lyons Triumph TR50. They became friends. We're longtime, lifetime friends. We're still friends with Babs, and they are at our home on the Mile Ground in Morgantown, where they were at grad school. And there's John. We had a Pontiac Bonneville, or Pontiac 6000, and this is similar to it, but not our car. That is, I believe, a Honda. Is that a Prelude? Maybe, but I think that's Chris, not John, but I thought that was John's car. They can help me clear that up. There I am on the way to the military ball in my parents' 1961 Pontiac Bonneville that we've referred to before, and this is the Benecke's home, which is there very much the same as it was back then. This is the Ohio, excuse me, This is the Ohio Valley in the background. My best buddy, along with JB Shaver, my two best buddies. JB has sadly has passed. This is Duffy, who also has passed. Dick and I are still kicking, and we would go kayaking over and over and over, and there are too many stories there to tell. This is our Dodge with the platform on the top. There is Sam Posey before he sat down on the ground. My parents and our Opal Manta at their home on Oglebay View Acres. There is Christopher in front of our Saab 90. I think it's a Model 90, and it looks like we had the Saab and the Chevy Vega GT right there. Found a picture of Donna Mae Mims, who was racing a pink Yenko Chevrolet at that Cumberland Raceway so many years ago. This is our tent. This was an IMSA race. Mark Donahue had 1,000 horsepower Porsche, and Mark later passed away. He was killed in a racing accident, I think maybe at Mid-Ohio. There is Nancy and Janie again with a lot of nice cars. And I believe this really is Nancy's car being washed, perhaps. I'm not sure. I don't know the history of that one. And what in the world have I done here? I don't know. That's not me. I raced one of these the following year, and it was showroom stock C. That might have been, I don't know if that's a Rabbit or a Fiesta. It looks like a Fiesta to me, but there I am out ahead of it. Nancy posing with the window that we installed. We had to cut the metal right through the side of that. There is our beautiful Anna and brand new 18-year-old grandson Jack with Duffy. Now, all that's left from that picture is Jack, as the Venza is gone, and we no longer have Anna or Duffy with us, but I had to include that. And that's the Ford Focus RS. Not a good country car. That's all I'll say. 350 horsepower, 0 to 60 in 4.5 seconds. And that's leaves me speechless. But that is John West's Mustang Mach something. And there's I guess a pregnant Nancy with our Vega GT. And Jenkins Ford sent young fella up to take pictures and videos, and he later did a video interview of me. That was a lapping weekend at Lime Rock for the Sports Car Drivers of America. For my 70th birthday, our children invited us to come to the Road Atlanta for the national runoffs, which Dave Rush would have participated in if that fella hadn't spun in front of me. And that's another story. I hope those girls don't feel too upstaged by that beautiful woman that was nice enough to marry me. Those are the Continental Tire girls. Oh, I don't know how Christopher crept into that picture, but there he is. Chris came to visit this fall, and I caught a picture of him in this vintage van of theirs, and that's the last picture. So that's all, folks.